The word of the Lord on tonight is coming from 1 Samuel chapter 30, and it reads, "And it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day, that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag, and smitten Ziklag, and burned it with fire." 4 says, "Then David and the people that were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep." 6 says, "And David was greatly distressed, for the people spake of stoning him, because they were grieved, every man for his sons and daughters. But David encouraged himself in the Lord his God. And David said to Abiathar the priest, I pray thee, bring hither the ephod. And David inquired, saying, Shall I pursue after this troop? Shall I overtake him? And the Lord answered back, Pursue, for you shall surely overtake them and recover all." I want to quickly share with you tonight, you're on the edge. You're on the edge. To be on the edge means to be on the brink of something. It means that you are at the point or moment just before a marked change. It is while we are at that moment, while we are at that point that precedes marked change, we encounter something called transition. A transition is the process of change. It is the evolution of one state to another. It is the repositioning from one place to another. It is the series of actions that shift you from one phase, from one level, from one form to another. Transition isn't your beginning and it isn't your finish. It isn't your past and it isn't your future. But transition is the occurrences of your now. It is the activity of your present. It is the happenings. It is the events that transpire in the in-between place. If we be honest tonight, many of us, if not all of us, are in the in-between place. We're not at our starting point and we're not at our finish. We're not where we used to be and we're not where we're headed. We're not quite butterflies, but we're not still crawling. We're in the process of change. We are in transition. And although transition is the pathway to destiny, although it is the corridor that takes us to where we're going, I must tell you tonight that transition can be tricky. Transition can be challenging. Sometimes it's smooth and oftentimes it's turbulent. Sometimes it's peaceful and most of the time there's conflict. Sometimes it's joyous, and many times transition is wrapped in frustration. It's wrapped in adversity. It's wrapped in tragedy. It's wrapped in suffering. Someone says, why is it wrapped in suffering? A transition is wrapped in suffering because suffering is the thing that stops us from settling. Suffering is the thing that prevents us from getting comfy in places that are temporary. Suffering is the thing that prevents us from accepting something or someone that's beneath our calling. You have to understand tonight that God packages transition and pain. Watch this, because without pain there is contentment with being on the edge instead of being at the end. You didn't catch it, I say it again. The absence of pain allows contentment. It allows satisfaction. It causes you to agree with being on the edge instead of being at the end. Well, someone says, well, why would I be content with being at the edge instead of being at the end? Because the edge is the place of almost. The edge is not quite, but it's close enough to your purpose. The edge is not quite, but it's close enough to your preordained identity. The edge is not quite, but it's close enough to the person God anointed you to be. We get comfortable on the edge because it's in our destiny's vicinity. And so in order for God to get us from the edge to what's next, he has to orchestrate chaos in our lives. He has to authorize hurt. He has to give us zigzag experiences. He has to implement pain. Why? Because pain is the vehicle that brings us to our threshold. Pain is the vehicle that pushes us to our limit. Pain is the vehicle that drives us to our breaking point. Pain is the thing that thrusts us into that place called can't take no more. And it's when we arrive at that place called can't take no more, we are forced to incline our ear to the voice of the Lord for direction so that we can transition. You ought to declare to yourself tonight, self, it's time for me to transition. Here in the text, we find David, our protagonist, in transition. He's no longer in Jesse's house where he started, and he hasn't reached the kingdom, which is his finish, but he's living in a transitory place called Ziklag. What is Ziklag? It is a providential place. It is the place where God strategically places you so that elevation, so that your purpose, so that your assignment can come to you. Here we find David and his 600 men in this place called Ziklag. It was a temporary place that was unknowingly prepared for him and given to him by King Achish during the period when Saul was trying to kill him. And according to chapter 27, the Bible tells us that he is here in Ziklag, in this temporary place, for a whole year and 4 months. I find it amazing how sometimes God accelerates transition, how he makes it happen really quick, and other times he delays it and keeps you on the edge for a season. Maybe it's just me tonight, but is there anybody in here or anybody watching that has ever been in a place where it felt like your moment was approaching? It felt like things were coming full circle. I mean, you could sense that you were at the brink of something and nothing happened. It's just me. You shouted about it. You sold into it. You declared and decreed God was shifting things, and still nothing happened. The text says David was at the entrance of prophetic fulfillment for almost a year and a half before anything happened. And what I love is within that time period, you don't see any accounts of David murmuring and complaining. You don't see any accounts of him talking stupid or doubting, but you just see David being still. People of God, we have to get to a place where we stop murmuring and we stop making premature conclusions about what God is doing, and we stop complaining but just comply with the plan of God. For the Bible tells us he knows the plans that he has for us, plans of good and not evil, plans to give us hope in a future, plans to bring us to an expected end. For Ecclesiastes 3 says, to everything there is a season, and it goes on to say that everything is beautiful in God's time, which suggests when we move outside of God's time into our time, we cause things in our life that should be beautiful to become ugly. The Bible shares with us that David was in God's time, and as he's in God's time waiting his turn, he encounters one of the most severe tests of his life. He encounters a situation that potentially had the power to destroy him. The text says it came to pass when David and his men were come to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites raided the city. Let me pause here for a moment and share a moment of transparency with you. Recently I encountered a situation I had never experienced, a situation that was potentially damaging, a situation where somebody was trying to burn me and my ministry. Now, anybody who knows me knows I'm not messy, I mind my business, and I try to keep peace with everybody. Yet this person was determined to burn me for no reason. And I was hurt about it. I was upset about it. I was worried about what was happening. I was worried about being damaged. I was worried that people might stop believing the lie that was being broadcasted. And so because I come from Bishop Moles, I know how to pray. And while I was seeking God's face, I heard the Lord say, don't worry about it, you're in Ziklag. I said, God, what you mean I'm in Ziklag? What's a Ziklag? He said, it's the brink of fulfilled prophecy. He said, it's the border of your blessing. And after he ministered to me, he said, tell the people to stop worrying. He said, the burn is evidence that the season you're in is ending. He said, the burn is an indication that Ziklag's about to be over. He said, the burn is an indication that the delayed place is about to be over. And he said, and there will be no damage. I need 12 prophetic folk tonight to speak over your situation and declare there will be no damage. I've come to tell somebody it might seem like the enemy is burning up your space. It might seem like he's setting fires in areas of your life, but it's not the enemy. God is orchestrating it. He's permitting your location where you presently are to be demolished. He's permitting things in your life to be taken. He's permitting you to be burned in relationships. Why? Because he's getting ready to shift you out of Ziklag. He's getting ready to transition you off the edge. He's getting ready to take you to a new phase. And there are some people in that has to be dismantled. And because you won't give it up, God's got to burn it up. But I came to tell somebody that God, He's getting ready to move you out of your zigzag experience, and He's getting ready to shift you into your purpose. He's getting ready to shift you into your assignment. If you believe it, I dare you to shout glory. Hey, glory. The Bible says in verse 6, but he encouraged himself. Have you ever had to encourage yourself? I mean, you had nobody. No friend could do it. Tracy, no person could do it. No preacher could do it. But you had to say, self, you shall live and not die. You had to say, self, you will not lose your mind. You had to say, self, this is just a test. It's almost over. You can make it. You can take it. David went in a room and encouraged himself. I come to tell somebody watching in tonight, don't die. You're at the edge of your breakthrough. You're at the edge of your breakthrough. Don't you throw in the towel. Don't you die now, because God's getting ready to blow your mind.